Good morning, everyone. And I think I can get started. Um, Hello, everyone. My name is Tracy Ritchie, and I am Director of Education for Earth Day Network. I am so excited to be joining you where for me it is morning, but for many of you, I believe is afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to start my presentation. And we will get started. And I know this will be a really quick session, so I'm so excited to just have a few moments to talk with you all. Again, my name is Tracy Ritchie, and I'm Director of Education for earthday.org. Many of you might have known us as Earth Day Network, and we still do the same exact work. We're just transitioning our name to earthday.org. And I'm joining you today from Washington, D.C., across the pond a bit, and very grateful to be on the native land of the Nacotchtank people and coming to you from a very interesting government right now, but we're in some transitions and hope to be making some strides soon to be joining you all back in sustainability and the Paris Climate Accord and making huge actions for climate action. So giving you just a little bit of history about the first Earth Day and where we came from and where we are today. The first Earth Day was in 1970 here in the United States, and it started from an idea from Senator Nelson from Wisconsin. And he wanted to take the energy and the passion and the movement of the anti-war and civil rights movement happening in the United States in the 1960s and harness that energy for the environment and to do major things to protect our environment. In the late 60s, the United States was seeing massive smog issues. The air was very unhealthy to breathe in urban cities across the country. You could barely see a few feet ahead of you. There was a major oil spill out in California in Santa Barbara. The Cuyahoga River in Ohio was so polluted with chemicals, it caught on fire. So all of these environmental issues were very visible, very in your face, and very scary to a lot of Americans. So they wanted to address those issues. And so they held the first Earth Day in April 1970, and 20 million Americans came out onto the street to say, we demand a better environment, a cleaner environment, a safer environment. And we really bring that passion to the environmental movement every day. There's a lot of talk that, Earth Day is great and we celebrate this in April, but we want to make sure that Earth Day, the spirit of Earth Day, the spirit of conservation and sustainability lasts all year long. It's not just one day in April. So we work very hard year round. I wish I only worked one day in April, but we work year round to make sure that the environmental movement is moving forward. It's growing, it's diversifying, and it's not just this one day in the US that we celebrate. So Earth Day Network coordinates tons of resources and educational resources for students and educators around the world. You'll see in this really fun GIF that we have over 2,000 schools registered as Earth Day schools, and that's actually not counting 3,000 additional schools we have just in Mexico alone. So we are growing this network of students, educators, and schools around the world who are passionate about making a difference for their environment and who see that they're not the only ones. There's a huge network of groups of schools doing this together that are passionate about the same things and are working to make a difference. And so that's the network we try to show, that there's support for you there and that there's other people working on this as well. And so for those schools and for anyone who comes to our website, we've got tons of resources to help you think about different environmental issues and how you can be a change agent in those issues. We have toolkits, we have lesson plans, we have timelines, we have all kinds of content that live on our website that are also translatable into multiple different languages. So all of these resources are there for you for free to check out and to learn from. And again, year round, not just in April. So these are some of the resources you'll see here. We have tons of content around pollinators and just how important they are and how to promote pollinators no matter where you live. And we also have this really fun timeline where we've looked at the history of the environmental movement and how far we've come, but to recognize also how much more work there is to do. And so you'll see some blank boxes at the end of it. This year we celebrated our 50th anniversary. It was 50 years since the first Earth Day, but there's so much more to do. So how can you be part of that timeline and join us in the environmental movement? We also have a really exciting citizen science app for your smartphone. It's available on both Apple and Android. And this is a super exciting partnership with the US State Department and the Wilson Center here in the United States. But this app is available globally, and we're actually working to get more global data from around the world. within the app, so it's one app, but it has 6 different widgets within the app. And you can talk about air quality, plastic pollution, food supply, and I always forget the last one, uh, insects. I think I already said insects. Anyway, so you'll have all these different kinds of data collection opportunities. So if you are identifying pollinators in your garden or out your back door or on your commute to school, you can take a picture of that pollinator and tell us where it is. You can also take pictures of air quality just looking out your window or your door. We want to make sure that everyone is safe during this time of COVID. We're not sure how far or how many people we can join while doing citizen science. So citizen science is a great safe thing to do while you're even alone or with your family. So the air quality widget lets you take pictures of your air quality and understand how your local air quality changes over time and even throughout the day. Plastic pollution, again, it's hard. We usually coordinate tons of cleanups around the world, especially around Earth Day, but we just weren't ready to encourage people to go outside and touch stuff over this pandemic. So there are very safe ways where you can clean up your local communities, from wearing gloves to having grabbers to making sure you never actually touch it, and then being extra special careful that you wash your hands and sanitize everything afterwards. But maybe just not having a huge school group of doing a cleanup, but you're still very welcome to collect plastic pollution that you see anywhere in your community and then report that data to our citizen science app. And then we also have a really fun app around food supply and really understanding, where is our food grown, where does it come from, and where does that exist around the world? And if our food is grown somewhere else, how does that relate to where we are today? So I definitely encourage you to download it's called Earth Challenge 2020, and you can find it on either your Android or Apple smartphone. We also have a really fun series of webinars, much not quite to the extent of this amazing summit that you all had this week, but Earth Day Live are just 1-hour seminars about different environmental topics that we really encourage people to come, join, learn, and share. So we did one back in September on this very topic of climate literacy, and we had an amazing panel with speakers from Qatar and Dubai and Pakistan and Peru and the United States. And so really bringing together a global conversation of how do we each address climate education, climate literacy in our schools, and how can we do more? And if you're interested, we have one coming up next week on November 19th, all about plastic pollution. And again, a really impressive global panel and what you can learn about that and what we can all do to address those issues. So the main thing I wanted to talk to you about today is our global climate and environmental literacy campaign. So much of what you all have been talking about this week is so critical for students around the world. We want to make sure that everyone has access to this kind of education and can ask these hard questions and to really critically think about our role in this and what we can do together. But we also want to make sure that you know, especially for students and teachers, this is not your responsibility alone. This is not you all to figure this out and make it happen yourself. There are so many groups around the world that are making sure that we get this education for you, that we get the tools for you, that we get the resources for you to make sure that you can incorporate this learning into your schools and into your daily lives to make a better, safer, more sustainable future for everybody. So when we talk about this campaign, we like to say that we are looking for every school in the world to have compulsory, assessed climate and environmental education with a strong civic engagement component. And I want to unpack that a little bit because some of those terms are a little scary or intimidating, or perhaps not something you wanted to hear. So I wanted to explain why we've chosen these terms. So when I say compulsory, it's not mandating a specific curriculum. It's not mandating a specific kind of learning. It's making sure that every student and every teacher has equitable access to this kind of education. There's so many amazing stories over the years of teachers and students working together to make this happen, either in an after-school club or the Eco Schools program that you have so prominently across the UK, or individual star teachers and students that make this happen. But we want to make sure that everybody, absolutely everybody, gets this kind of education. So the compulsory is just meant to say that everyone everywhere gets this, and it's mandated for them to get that. The assessed part is, I promise students, I am not making sure that you have another standardized test to take at the end of the school year. I just mean to say assessed in that we are looking to have demonstrate that this is working and it's important. So us doing the work and understanding, from looking at other assessments that you have, or, looking at the work that you do over the course of the academic year, how can we show that this new learning and this new kind of learning is helping you grow as individual, as citizens, and that it's making a difference, just to demonstrate that it helps. And we also want to make sure that there's a strong civic engagement component to all the work that we do. So climate and environmental education is beautifully and inherently interdisciplinary. So that means that when we talk about science, when we talk about the environment or climate, it's not just a subject within science. And a lot of science teachers feel that responsibility, but really the environment and climate is every subject, it's every discipline. And we really need to make sure that we incorporate it into everything. So whether you are in social studies and learning about the history of your country, or how you formed, or what is the evolution of your government, the environment plays a big part in that. Or if you're talking about arts or literature or poetry or dance or math, there's always a way to bring in the environment and climate into those subjects. So we want to make sure that it's not just this one subject or this one elective on the side, that the climate and environment is built into everything that we talk about. And it's not just for older students, it's for younger students too. So as early as 5-6 years old, we can be building that care ethic, that appreciation, and that wonder for the environment. And then we can get more into complicated topics about climate change, carbon sequestration, resource use as we get older. But we want to make sure that everyone has this, and that it's across all subjects and disciplines at all grade levels. And then the civic engagement part is, let's use that knowledge, let's build those skills, and let's actually implement things. The way you can retain knowledge and make it more real is to do something about it. And we've heard so many great sessions today and across the week of, what does this knowledge mean? If I want to reduce my carbon footprint, how do I do that? Let's practice that. How does that look over time? Things about our daily behavior changes, or understanding how our community works and our local government works, and how do we have a meaningful voice maybe before we're old enough to vote. What does civic engagement and community engagement look like before we're at voting age? So the civic engagement part is just that practical application of this knowledge. And I think we can all agree that project-based learning, where we're out in our community or we're out in the schoolyard and we're actually implementing what we're learning, is so much more fun than just staying in the classroom all day. And so for this campaign, we've created a sign-on letter where we're looking for organizations around the world to support us in this effort, and to join us in this effort as we bring this to the climate meeting in Glasgow next year, COP26. And I think a lot of you have been talking about what the COP is and what it does and how we work together. So we are bringing this as a request to COP in Glasgow next November, to say, this is the kind of education we need. This is the kind of education we're demanding. And all of these groups around the world are agreeing with us and are there to support it. So these are just a few of the logos of the groups that we've had sign on really early on. We just launched this campaign in September, but now we are over 350 different global organizations who support this effort and are there to support you as students and educators in this. These are the kind of groups that will help with the content, that will help with professional development, that will help with outdoor learning experiences, and will make this process possible. So if any other nonprofits or non-formal organizations are on this meeting today, we'd love to have you join us. And I'm happy to supply some links after that. And I'll also have my contact information at the end slide. So anyone has any questions, you're welcome to contact me. So I want to talk a little bit more about what we can all do together to make this happen, and what steps can we take now as we work to some of these goals at COP26 next year. So one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of the presentation is that first Earth Day, when Senator Nelson brought all of these people together and they had 20 million Americans come out into the streets, the first Earth Day was actually called an environmental teach-in. And so that really means it's a way for communities to come together to talk about these issues together and decide together, what are we going to do? What is our our action plan, and how do we do that together, and how do we make sure all the voices are included at the table to make sure we're being really inclusive as we talk about the solutions to these environmental problems that are happening to us locally. I think the coolest part about the first Earth Day is that Senator Nelson hired college students to put this on. So Dennis Hayes, who was a college student at Harvard at the time, worked with several other organizers to coordinate this and made it happen across college campuses across the country. And think about, the late 1960s and the early 1970s, there was no internet, there was no social media, there was no, all the things that we could do to get these messages far and wide now. They literally called people, they put ads in newspapers, they sent snail mail across the country to get people organized. So think about the power that we have now with social media to do events like this virtually across the world and share that louder and wider. So when Earth Day 2020 and the 50th anniversary had to pivot to be a completely virtual event to keep everyone safe from COVID, we learned all kinds of new ways to be more inclusive and to broaden our audience for a teach-in. So a teach-in doesn't have to be just a group of people in one location talking about something. It could be people around the world. It could be someone from each continent talking about what they want to do. So a teach-in is just a really great way to come together, talk about an issue, hear from experts, talk about your experiences and your feelings, and decide together how you're going to move forward. And we have tons of resources on our website to help you facilitate a teach-in. What does it look like? How does it function? What's an agenda? So all of that stuff is on our website. I've heard it a couple of times this week, and I'm so glad that this is entering the conversation, but adjusting your diet ever so slightly to dramatically can really make a difference for the environment. So our team in India put together a really fun cookbook where they talked about all the different scraps that you have after cooking and all the different leftover pieces to help eliminate food waste. How can you repurpose those pieces to make more food and more delicious food? So this was an example of a thin crust pizza that is happening, but there's all kinds of recipes from cookies and cakes to marmalades to tons of great recipes of thinking about how we're more careful about our food waste and how we repurpose it, but also having that conversation about adjusting to a more plant-based diet and the huge impacts that has. That we're not asking everyone to go vegan overnight. It's very, very difficult, but adjusting one meal a week or one day a week to be more plant-based or incorporate more plant-based options and try to cut down on your meat and dairy just makes a huge difference. So just something to consider, all the different flavorful, delicious recipes you can have that have a more plant-based focus. Again, citizen science, we talked about Earth Challenge 2020, and there are so many different citizen science apps and programs across the world. So doing your part to be part of the process, understand the scientific method, help scientists around the world collect data. They can't be everywhere at once. So the more people that help collect data and understand that data and what to do with that data is hugely impactful. And the last thing I'll say is talk to others and share and listen. This summit was phenomenal all week long of all the different stories, all the different topics. What are we doing together? Hearing from people your own age, but hearing people from across the world and different communities, but your same community too. Talking people from your faith community or your family. It's just such a huge way to work together, to listen, to act, and to learn. So I've been so excited to hear all the different presentations. It gives me so much hope that you all are doing so much good in this world and are passionate about making a difference. And earthday.org is just here to help support that. So anything we can do to help support you as a student or an educator, that's our job. So I know we're getting really close to the end of the program here, so I just want to leave our website and my contact information. I'm here to help, so please send me an email if there's anything I could do to connect you to our resources. And I'm just so excited to be here today. So thank you so much. I know you guys are wrapping up and are going to have a great closing session next. So thank you so very much for your time today. And I think there might be questions. I saw something pop up, but I'll stop sharing my screen here. And 3-minute warning. Okay, thank you. And I think we're at about 1 minute now. So thank you everybody for your time today. I really appreciate it. Please enjoy the closing session coming up next and have a wonderful day.